The purpose of this video is to give you a brief overview on how to use the ChemCollective Virtual Lab. Here we see the virtual lab, and this space right here is our virtual workbench. So this is like your lab table in a traditional chemistry lab. Now on the left-hand side, you'll see the stockroom. The stockroom has access to various types of chemicals, glassware, and other tools. And what I can do is I can take solutions, metals, chemicals that are found within the stockroom, and I can actually drag them onto the workbench. So by clicking on something, we can see that we can add something. So if I want to add some distilled water, I'll just click on it and you'll see it's added to my virtual workbench right here. So that is how we add chemicals to the lab bench. We might need some glassware, so we can go back to the stockroom. Maybe I want an Erlenmeyer flask. You can see there's Erlenmeyer flasks available, graduated cylinders, pipettes, volumetric flasks, so on and so forth. Now, say I want a 250 milliliter Erlenmeyer flask. I can grab that right there and I can add it. So now when we have our glassware, we can add different types of chemical compounds or solutions to that flask. And anytime we want to do that, what we can do is just take that solution and drag it over top of the glassware, and it'll ask you how much you would like to add. Say I want to add 100 milliliters of this. I could go 100 and just pour it, and what you'll see is this has now, water has been added to my Erlenmeyer flask. So that's how we can do that. If I want to duplicate something, I might want to make several versions of this. Instead of pouring this out into Erlenmeyer flasks like I would have to do in my traditional lab, I can click and right-click on this and choose duplicate, and that allows me to make another copy. Now, if I need to rename a flask, I can take the piece of glassware right here, and if I right-click on it, I can go rename, and maybe you have to put your first name, and we'll just call this H2O. So if I click on rename, now you see that has been renamed, and so on and so forth. So you might be required to do that in some kind of a lab. There's other tools that are available in the stockroom as well. If I want to go and add a scale, I can take that scale right here, place it here. Maybe I need some weigh paper or a weigh boat. That's what's used when we're measuring out a mass of a solid. I can go to glassware and go to other, click on weigh boat. It appears on my virtual workbench. I can then drag that over. Maybe I needed 2 grams of this potassium iodate. I can take that and drag it over to the scale and add it to the scale. Now, whenever I'm adding something to a scale, I should always tear anything that I've added to the scale so that I'm only measuring the chemical. So now I've pressed the tear button, and you can see this weigh boat isn't being weighed right now. The mass is just 0. So if I want to weigh out some kind of chemical compound, I can drag it over to the scale. I can choose how much mass I want to add. I will pour that, and you can see that now registers on the scale. We can click this away, and now you can see I've got 2.00 grams of this chemical compound in my weigh boat. Now, if I need to do something with this weigh boat, I'll disconnect the weigh boat, and that allows me to move this around. I could add this mass to something like an Erlenmeyer flask, and if I wanted to do that, I just take it and drag it over top of that beaker and say how much I want to add, 2.00 grams, and we'll choose pour. Now we've added that 2.00 grams of potassium iodate to this Erlenmeyer flask. So that's how you add different chemicals. When we're doing this, I like to simulate an actual situation. I don't like taking the chemicals and pouring them directly into the flask. That is not proper lab technique, and we want to kind of instead mimic actual lab technique when we're performing these virtual labs. So it's something that you could do, but I would rather you actually prefer you to use real lab techniques so that you're preparing yourself for some kind of lab that you might do in post-secondary. Now, if we have this virtual lab right here and our workbench is becoming more and more cluttered, what we can do is we can right-click on any of the instruments and choose remove. That will make it disappear from our workbench, and we can continue to work so on and so forth. Now, some labs might require you to do a titration. For that, what we'll have to do is we'll have to go to the stockroom, click on Other here, and down at the bottom there's a burette. There's a burette. We can take that and we can fill it with some kind of a solution. Let's just fill it with water for right now. And you can see I'm going to fill it up. And if I go down here, I can put, well, let's say it's 50.0 milliliters I want to add. And as you can see, I've added that water. I can unclick that and take a look at my burette. Now, whenever we're doing a titration, we have to measure the initial volume of titrant or whatever solutions in this burette. So if we want to get that detail, we can use the detail view. And now I can see and I can read the meniscus right here. The meniscus is, remember, that bottom concave piece of the solution that's in your instrument. And right now it's sitting right at this line right here at 2.00. Now, another thing that we could do is, let's say if I just add a little bit of more water, we can also estimate a little bit using this burette. So when we're reading any instrument, we can read the instrument to 1 decimal place past what the markings are on that instrument. So for example here, if I'm looking at this meniscus right here, I'm taking a look, it's not right at this line right here, but we're at 1.567, and it's almost at 1.8, but I would estimate this one to be something like 1.79. Okay, so I would say this is 1.79, not quite 1.8, and that's what I would record on my instrument. Now, if I needed to do some kind of titration here, what I can do is I can take the burette that I'm using, and if I drag it on top of the Erlenmeyer flask that I want to titrate into, you can see that they are now lined up. Okay, so now we've got them lined up. It's looking good. Maybe I needed to add some kind of an indicator. In this case right here, we have the starch that we'll use in this lab. I would have added some starch into my Erlenmeyer flask. But then if I want to titrate, what I'll do is I'll just pick a volume. I like 0.01 milliliters. And if I press pour, what you're going to see is the volume of titrant in our burette is going to decrease over time as I click pour. So if you see this, we see the volume of liquid decreasing, and I would keep adding this titrant until eventually I got a color change. So I would proceed until I saw a color change indicating I'd reached the endpoint for my titration. So that's just a quick overview on how to use the ChemCollective Virtual Lab. There's lots of things to play with, and just read the instructions in your lab carefully to understand how to perform your lab.